All right, welcome everyone. So that was Yusuf, formerly known as Cat Stevens, with two songs, Moon Shadow and Peace Train. Some of my favorites. My parents used to love listening to him, and I still love this music very much. So let's take a deeper look at the lyrics here. So starting with Moon Shadow. So what's he talking about with Moon Shadow? Well, the moon is often reflective of our unconscious self, and especially doubly emphasized with Moon Shadow. So our shadow self, not that it's a bad thing, but it's just the unconscious. It's what is inviting us to go deeper or to explore. It's the necessary forgetfulness so that we can even have this experience seemingly apart from our divine creator, when the truth is there is no such thing as separation. We are the divine creator, just in this lowered form. So moon shadow is the subconscious, the drive to continue exploring, but it also can lead us to temptation, because it's the belief in separation as absolute. So he sings, "Oh, I'm being followed by a moon shadow," 3 times, moon shadow. "Leaping and hopping on a moon shadow," again 3 times, or 6. So this could be the Trinity, the experience of separating from the monad to the triad, really. People say duality. I've said duality, but and that's just the initial split perhaps, but it's really a triad of the father, mother, and child. So, and then 6 times could represent the 6 embodied chakras that are sort of clouded by the moon shadow, until we clean those wheels, make them squeaky clean so they can flow properly back to realization. So then he continues, "And if I ever lose my hands, lose my plow, lose my land, or if I ever lose my hands, I won't have to work no more. And if I ever lose my eyes, if my colors all run dry, yes, if I ever lose my eyes, I won't have to cry no more." So it continues throughout the song, but this is just the examination and the sort of detachment of form, or as we become realized, not that we discard the body or discard the physical experience. In actuality, it makes us cherish it even more deeply, but we're not attached to it, as in we're not bound to the external. So it's this peace that passes all understanding, the true freedom that comes from realizing that I'm not bound to this body. I'm not this body. I love this body. I'm very appreciative of this body, but if something were to happen to it, well, it's not happening to me, right? Now, again, it doesn't mean that we discard or abuse our body, but it's just a healthier way of being with it, the detached, non-attachment way. So that's all he's singing here. And then he repeats, "Yes, I'm being followed by a moon shadow, leaping and hopping on a moon shadow. And if I ever lose my legs, I won't moan and I won't beg. Yes, if I ever lose my legs, then I won't have to walk no more. And if I ever lose my mouth, all my teeth, north and south, if I ever lose my mouth, I won't have to talk." So again, just the detachment from the physical, because if we're not afraid of losing anything, then we're not afraid. That's the stepping away from fear as the control mechanism within our reality. If there's nothing that we're afraid of losing, then there's nothing to fear, which is much easier said than done, of course. But that's the path to freedom. That's the way. "Did it take long to find me? I asked the faithful light. So this is after being prepared to lose all of attachment, then that's what allows the faithful light, or our higher self, or however you want to view it. It's all you, but it allows God to find you. I asked the faithful light, did it take long to find me? Did it take long to find me? And are you going to stay the night? We feel that connection, when we go deeply into a meditation, or we're lost in whatever sort of creative process we're doing, immersed in the music, whatever the case may be. Then we catch a glimpse of that illumination. And in our more immature stages, it's much more fleeting, very challenging to maintain. So you might ask, are you going to stay the night? But that's another form of attachment, right? So it seems counterintuitive from a mental perspective to want and desire to have that connection, but it's actually through the release and the surrender and just the allowance that allows that to happen. So this is just a beautiful representation of that internal process of letting go of attachment, connecting with moon shadow, our subconscious self, and gracefully moving through that. So yeah, that's the first song, Moon Shadow by Cat Stevens, or Yusuf. And then the next one, just a great reminder, not really a ton to decode in the song Peace Train, but it's just a fantastic reminder and very fitting for this time as we are moving out of this dark winter of however long it's been. One could argue 12,500 years of night, and the Peace Train is always been going, but the ability to find it and our willingness to hop on is growing. So it reads, now I've been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's going to come. You know what? No matter how far we fall into the illusion of separation, the inevitability of coming back is guaranteed. Because out on the edge of darkness, there rides a peace train. That's the Christ within all of us. That is the peace train. Hop on, and he will carry you. He, she, the Christic influence will carry you forward. The peace that passes all understanding. And it's always available to us, though in the more darker moments of this experience we're having, it is much more challenging to find. Oh, peace train, take this country and come take me home again. Christ, take this country and take us home again. Now I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. Oh, peace train, sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Come on now, peace train. Yes, peace train. Holy roller. Everyone jump on the peace train. Come on now, peace train. Get your bags together. Go bring your good friends too, because it's getting near. It soon will be with you. Now come and join the living. God is the God of the living, not the dead. Christ illustrated these two paths. One is for life and one is for death. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. So now come and join the living. It's not so far from you, and it's getting nearer. Soon it will all be true. Now I've been crying lately, thinking about what the world as it is. So coming back, grounding into not losing sight on what's happening now, thinking about the world as is, why we must go on hating, why can't we live in bliss? And it's through this contrast, this whole experience, we asked ourselves, how can we know thyself, know ourselves better as the representation of unconditional love, which is what we are, that ultimate goodness. How can we know ourselves even better? Well, we chose to experience the absence of that. or the appearance of the absence of that, the contrast. So that line really reflects on the contrast. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss? Because out on the edge of darkness, there rides a peace train. And this has been a dark time. Oh, peace train, take this country. Come take me home again. So yeah, that's those two lovely songs. And welcome to another exciting gathering of Quest-i-on, the quest to illuminate the single eye, the quest I am on, the quest to jump on the peace train. So that's what this practice of asking questions and humbling ourselves, being open to what we can discover, is what allows the Christ within us to come forth. Because if we're sure of everything and we're absolutely certain that it is this way or that way, then that's the rigidity that closes off the magic and wonder. So this is a great exercise for us to come together and ask questions and share about our collective experiences of discovery and learning, and whether that be through what we're being challenged with or what we've overcome. Anything is on the table. Anything is more than welcome to be shared. So if you're just tuning in or need a reminder, anytime you feel inspired to ask a question or jump in, just simply raise your hand, and that's by hitting the center button on your screen, and that signals to me to open up your mic. And then when there's a quiet moment, I will call on you. And if your mic is already opened from a previous point, just simply jump in when there's an opportune moment. So whenever there's a quiet moment, just jump in. We're not all on top of each other, so there's usually ample time. And if you have a hard time doing that, just toggle your mic on and off by hitting that same button, and I will do my best to call on you. And yeah, I'm not sitting here claiming to have all the answers. You might be asking why are we asking you questions? I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I'm just happy to share what I have learned, and I love the process of asking questions and deepening our understanding together. So I love that there are others on this call that have deep understandings about various topics, including you. So if you ever feel at some point that you want to share on a particular topic, want to expand on what has been discussed, or just add your gnosis any which way, feel free to jump in as well. This is a great discussion for all. So yeah, just before we get started today, just some quick announcements to go over. So I hope everyone has seen the Awaken the Christ Within Summit that's been going on for the past couple of days now. I did a post about it. I've done a couple posts about it, but I've thoroughly enjoyed all the presentations that I've watched. I think they're doing such a phenomenal job. For those who don't know, this has been sort of started by Aaron Abke and his Jesus Way podcast, and the ways that he simplifies just the simplicity of Christ's message, and how we can sort of pick apart the religious distortions that take us away from this simple teaching, which is that Christ lives within you. It's not just one man who we're to worship as our Savior, but Christ is the salvation that lives within you when you align with the way, which is, we can come up with all sorts of complicated things about it, but Jesus really gave, or Ieshua gave, these really simple two. Let's distill the 10 commandments down to just two, and really we can make it just one. But the two he distilled it down to are love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. If you can do those two things, you're following the way. Now, it's very challenging at times. It's not always easy. And I say this can be disseminated into one because when there's a recognition that God is all things, you and everyone around you, and all layers of creation, all beings, organic, inorganic, it doesn't matter. Every layer of this creation is God. So when you truly understand that, and that separation is merely for the experience, is not absolute, then there is no room to cause harm, and there's a very simple path to follow and a way to recognize when I have veered off of this path. So that's all what the way is. And I've loved as I mentioned, the presentations that they've been giving a lot of great insight, various topics. I won't go too much into detail about it. Just want to mention that it's still available if anybody wants to tune in and watch. You can find the link I sent in a couple posts ago about that, and it's completely free during this week. They do ask if you want to maintain the content after the event is over, that you pay a small fee, which to me is very fair given the amount of content, books, resources, and things that they're offering for this. So they've really done a great job at making this all happen, and you can really tell they care a lot about this message and just making sure it gets out to as many people as possible. So yeah, just wanted to mention that, which has been wonderful to follow. And then also, I wanted to share some very exciting news. So most of y'all probably know that I have been helping to support Bali and the Lions of Uganda, this orphanage in Uganda where Bali helps to care for close to 30 children who live with him. And he does a phenomenal job at making do with what they have available, helping to care for the children. And not only that, but caring for other children in the community that don't really have good homes. They might live with their parents or live with somebody, but don't really have a good home, don't really have a stable place to eat. So he accepts anybody in who needs a meal or just helping children in any way possible. So I've been helping with that, and I'm so appreciative of anyone who has chipped in for that. It's been phenomenal to make sure they get at least their basic needs met. So I've got on the screen the giftsandgo.com/Lions of Uganda if you want to support to that, or if you just want to donate to me and just note that you'd like it to go to Bali. So you can find all my links to contribute at justincarpenter.org/contribute. But the exciting news, and huge thanks to, well, I'll give a shout out to Tracy. She's been phenomenal at helping keep their basic needs met for the last couple months. It's been a tremendous help and a huge relief for me, so I don't have to worry about making sure that they have their basic needs met. So thank you, Tracy, for that. And then we had an anonymous donor that I'm so appreciative of who chipped in. So just to preface, they were being asked by their current landlord that they needed to move out. He's been asking them to find another place to live, find another way. He wants the home back to use for his purposes. And he didn't give them a deadline, but he has been pressuring them for the last few months. So Bali has, been struggling as far as what to do with this. And he shared with me some of the challenging parts of the process. But it did come up that the landlord also owns the neighboring property. And that was one of the concerns, because they had just built a chicken coop to raise and care for chickens on their property. And so the landlord said that he could sell them the neighboring property and still give them full access to the chicken coop, what they just spent a lot of time and effort into building. So fortunately, that was an option. And very fortunately, we had an anonymous donor give more than enough to pay for the land. So this just happened last week, where I was able to transfer the funds. He was able to sign the paperwork. He video documented the whole thing if anyone is curious or wants to see more of that process, and showed the contract that they've read up. They had like a government official come and stamp the document to make it all official. And yeah, so now Bali is now a landowner in that neighboring property, and there was enough left over from the property purchase to also begin building their home. So that's the next steps. That's the next stage of the plan, is procuring supplies to begin building the home. He did get an estimate for what the home would cost to build, and we don't quite have enough to complete the home based on what they need, but we're well on our way. So let's see, off the top of my head, I think it would only cost a little less than $2,000 to give them enough to complete the home based on the current estimate. And he's very confident that the people who build it can do it very quickly and build it to their needs and have enough so that they can still continue housing the same children and resume, operations in the ways that they have been, but without the constant need for rent, and then he'll have full freedom to grow things on the property. And so it's very, very exciting what's happening. So I'm just putting that out there, that if anyone else, again, a huge thank you to the anonymous donor, just such an angel, and they were so blessed by having this, and it's just been wonderful to communicate. And so I'll be putting some videos together to just share updates around that. But I just wanted to put it out there that if anyone else is able to contribute for that, to make sure that they can build the home completely as they need to, like I said, it's roughly a little less than $2,000, which is unbelievable given what we think of when it comes to cost of building a home. But they'll be able to build a complete home to their needs if we can just raise that much amount more. So it's not going to stop the process. They are going to continue building and should have enough to keep building for the next month or so. But just when it gets to that point, it would be helpful to raise the funds so they can fully get that. So I just want to put that out there. If anybody has the ability to chip in for that, that would be super appreciated. And it's one of those things where, we're doing our best to help out as many as we can. And I want to also just give a big nod and thanks to Lila for her continued support for another orphanage in Uganda, with Sam and the Hands of Hope ministry. So, Lila, if you're on, are you able to say a quick word about what's going on with Sam at the moment?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, firstly, I just want to say I've been deeply involved with Bali and the crew, and I am moved beyond all words to hear this news. And I just want to say thank you to those who have been continuously supporting with the bits that they have. And I cannot tell you how much relief I feel for Bali and the children and the other elders that help Bali, for, this land to be procured and for them to save their chicken coop, which I just want to say, for anyone who doesn't realize it, in Africa, a chicken coop isn't like like most chicken coops here. It's not just like, a simple little structure with some chicken wire that most of us need. It's like a cement block building, because they have to keep the animals out, and keep the chickens safe. So it was, even that was quite impressive. I was like, I could live in that. So, that was also something that he's been working on. Really, it's been like a year and a half or something, slowly but surely they've all built it together and, tried to become more sustainable. So for, them to be able to keep the use of the chicken coop and then be right next to it is just, God is good. What can we say? I'm just so, so grateful and thankful to the donor and all the donors that have just been keeping them going. It's been really such a gift to work with them, and also many nights I go to bed with a heavy heart, just feeling like I can't do enough. So with the help of all of you, Justin and I just are celebrating so much. I wanted to say that. And then for anybody who knows about Sam, basically Sam and Bali have two different groups, very similar situations, about 90 kilometers from each other, both in Uganda. And Sam has also been trying to purchase some type of land so they could farm. They did have to move off of a a house that they had rented with a fairly large yard. Oh gosh, I think it's been about a year now, but they did move, and they had to move into a smaller house with all the children, and actually a totally different family lives there, so it's quite crowded, less ideal, but at least they were able to find a place. And the rent was, I think his rent went down from $70 to $50 a month. So that was nice, but it is rougher there. It's not quite as spacious outside, which, when you can imagine, when you have well, they have about 27 children and another adult, Grace, and then Sam himself, who live together. And then they have, multiple children that come from the community, just as Bali does, that will come during the day and hope to be fed or just to interact with the other children. Usually they are not orphans, but they might have, say, a grandmother at home, or some type of family member who maybe has a little hut somewhere on some land, but doesn't really have a lot to give them. So that's the case with Sam too. And so it ends up being about 52 kids on most days that gather. So, yeah, just, I just wanted to celebrate how happy we are for Bali, and then to mention that, especially since I've been living in a camper, which started last April, and, been in a different situation myself as far as funding and accessibility to do sessions and so on, my ability to help them has lessened, and also the amount of donations has lessened. So they could get by on, it's quite amazing that they could get by for 50 people on about $1,000 a month. But really, they've only had sometimes less than 200 or so a month in the last 6 months or so since I've been unhoused. And so doing the best that we can, and so grateful to everybody who has been giving what they can, and just wanted to give a gentle reminder that they're still there. And he also has a Telegram page, Hands of Hope. He's on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel that we're working on for him. And any way that you can put the word out, or if you find it in your heart to give to them, I am quite concerned. The latest videos, etc., the children who I know, not know, but, I've interacted with each one through video calling, and then I'm familiar with most of them. They're just looking very thin, and I'm very concerned, because sometimes they're just eating one meal a day or something. So I know it's a crazy time. Believe you me, I'm living it too. Sometimes wondering where my groceries are going to come. But I have so much more than these children, and Sam and Bali and the children he's shepherding. And so, I just keep trying to find it when I have it. So yeah, just a gentle reminder that they're there. And if anybody has any, firstly, just prayers and visualizations, meditations of them being supported and knowing peace and love and satisfaction in their hearts, that's the most important. And then, of course, financially, whether you can give, even if you can give, set up a monthly donation of $5 a month. If we know he has it to depend on, that's such a beautiful gift. And then if you can, help find other people. Say you're part of a church group, and they could start a monthly donation to either Bali or Sam. Either one is great. So, and then of course we're in the same place where we're praying and hoping to manifest the same that Bali has now found, which is some type of property where they can farm and build a structure where they can all be together. We would be so grateful. So thank you to everybody. Thank you, Justin, for letting me speak on this. And feel free to contact me directly if you have any more questions, if you want any proof, if you want any, further discussion around this, if you want to give. he does receive funds through, it's almost like a Western Union type situation. And so if somebody has PayPal or Venmo or whatever, often Justin and I will take those and then dole those out to them. And we try, I think I always do it at this point. As soon as somebody donates money, I send it to him, and I will send you a screenshot proving that it was sent directly to him. So all the receipts are there. So yeah, if anyone feels moved to do any of that, please do. And if you can, just, I don't know, draw a picture of them, paint a picture of them, write their name with, however you pray, however you creatively manifest. Please participate with us and creating that for them. And funnily enough, I'm actually going to look at a home to rent right now. So where some of us have very specific needs right now around housing, and some of us are in very secure and wonderful situations, and just using that vibration of what it feels like to have a home in a secure situation, that's just so powerful to meditate on and share with those of us that aren't in that space. So that would be my biggest hope, is if you do have that, if you know that security and what it feels like to have a bed, not sleep on the floor, not be homeless, or not sleep in a camper, or not sleep in a car, not sleep on the earth. Not that sleep on the earth is bad, but just that feeling. Please send that vibrationally out to those of us that have been challenged during these times. I know that I've dealt with housing insecurity since I became pregnant with my son 14 years ago, but also especially since COVID happened. And it wears on the soul. It really does. It's so hard. And then food insecurity too is just such a, no one should be suffering that on this earthly plane at this point. So yeah, our prayers for all of those children, all of the children everywhere. And thank you so much for considering this and hearing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lila. Thanks for going through that. And yeah, I know it's hard for so many, and so I'm not looking to add stress or anything in that capacity to anyone out there. But I do feel a need to at least mention it. Mention these two ventures to help children in Uganda, and then also within our own community as well. I mean, of course, not that they're not in our community, but just meant more here locally. So just to give a brief explanation, many of you know Jenna in the JC family. Her tag is Sweet Jenna. And the situation with her partner, Gary, who had to have his nose amputated in a sort of medical emergency from cancer not too long ago. And so that's proven to be quite challenging for both of them, and their home situation is abysmal. The apartment they're in, terrible conditions, lots of mold exposure, and their current landlords were just continuing to increase the rent, really trying to drive them out. So anyway, they are fortunately looking to move to Suffolk, Virginia, near Norfolk, where Gary can receive adequate medical care for what he's going through. I believe Jenna is going to receive assistance as well, because she has some physical impairments as well. And so I just want to mention that, because they're doing their best to make do and are certainly struggling. So if anyone has any ability to reach out to them, and again, I love the prompt that Lila gave of just saying a prayer, at the very least, just holding them in that space. that they move to a new home and transition well. And if anyone is able to help pitch in to help them with moving costs, I know they would greatly appreciate that. Again, you can reach out to Jenna at Sweet Jenna on Telegram. That's at Sweet Jenna on Telegram. If you have a hard time getting in touch with her or just want to help out, you can reach out to me as well. And so we can help each other out in these times. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there as well. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone listening in to these sort of lengthy announcements, but this is what is here for us right now. So I just wanted to put it out there. So thanks for that. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the show today. And I do have some offline questions, and anyone is always welcome to send me offline questions or topics or things that you just want to go deeper into. And I'll do my best to record them. I keep a running list, and we cover as many as we can each show. However, I do love to give priority to the questions and topics that are actually brought here live on the show. You know, this is open to anybody. Anyone can come on and speak. And if you've taken the time to participate in the show, then I want to honor that and give you precedent to share or go over your topic first. So, like I said, I can go over these offline questions and always have that list to go back on, but I want to give priority to those who are here live on the call. So I'll just give a quick minute and see if anyone wants to start us off today with a topic or a question. So I'll pass it off. All right, well, we'll go through some offline ones first.
Hey, could I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I wanted to say something just because I saw a comment that was made recently in the chat, and I don't know how much because I've been traveling and so on, I don't know. I think I followed it pretty closely. I don't know if much has been said, but I remember somebody commenting on, like, why are you guys always raising money or something like that? Do you remember that? Or it would be nice if we weren't raising money or something like that. And I just wanted to speak to that for a minute, which is, it may seem like that, and it is. In my life, I feel like it is a consistent thing that I've become involved in. But I also feel like where's the energy of, community? Is that we give a helping hand in whatever ways we can. And so I just wanted to encourage anybody, if they feel like, oh God, just another way this person or that person needs help or whatever, just to let you know that I hear you. And I actually remember I used to have a friend who was raising money for children in Africa, and it was relentless. There were all these messages, etc. And I just was like, well, I'm here, and I want to take care of people here, and I never really got involved. And then as I built God put this in my path to build this relationship with these people. I really understood in a different way where that friend was coming from. But what I wanted to say is just, I hear you. And also it really is coming from the deepest parts of our heart that we would just love to show up as God puts things in our paths. So if it's not something that you can do or you have an issue with, feel free to scroll on by, or, do whatever you need to do to keep your sanity around it, especially if you don't have money to give. That's why I said, like, just the vibration of love and caring and security, being housed, those kinds of things. That's such a wonderful energy to send because I've had that feeling where I'm like, oh, how can I even help? Because I don't have money right now to send to this person or whatever. But it really is, as Justin said, an opportunity in the moment to check into a frequency. And we always have the choice to use our intelligence and our creativity and our consciousness to project in different ways. So this is just another opportunity to do that. And it just is what's being put in our paths, and we're trying to do our best to show up and support that. So yeah, I just wanted to speak to that real quick, since there wasn't anything right off the top here, and that was something I was kind of meaning to respond to in the chat, but then I just thought, oh, why not just do it with my voice? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for speaking to that. It is challenging, because I don't want to fatigue people with requests and all of that. I get that we're here for different reasons, but ultimately I'm going to go with how can I help every single time. And if this is being put in front of me to help, then that's what I'm going to encourage. And I don't have any expectation that it's met by anybody in particular or met in any sort of way. I just want to do my best to help as well. So yeah, thanks for speaking to that. And
yeah, exactly. We're not trying to it may feel like a pressure, but if it is a pressure, that is what people are putting on themselves versus from us. We're just saying, here we are, it's been asked of us, we're involved in this. If you can help, great, in whatever way, but please don't feel pressure from us to do that, to be part of our greater community. We're just well put. That's exactly it. No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Roseanne, I saw you had your hand raised. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm so warmed. My heart is so full right now, knowing that the kids found an anonymous donor, and this is the whole point of this. This is why you do this, because there are people out there that do have money and can contribute, and they don't know really, where to do that. And so the more we talk about it, the more the word gets out, then yeah, more abundance will come. It's just manifesting in the direction that there's a need. And of course, yeah, nobody should, not feed their children if they don't have the money, or if they, if it's not, they might be giving to other organizations or whatever, and that's great. But I mean, it just shows right there that, when you ask, you will receive, and the right person showed up. And I'm just so happy, and yeah, I, I'm so grateful that those children are going to be, taken care of, and they acquired the land. And yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more donations, funneling to both Bali and Sam too. So yeah, thank you for. I say thank you for continually putting the word. Sometimes I forget too. So to help. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Roseanne. You broke up a little bit at the end, but I think I got the gist of what you said, and just appreciate the kind words. And yeah, happy to help any which way. And I'm very much looking forward to the day where, financial assistance is not going to be such a, where we have to set aside our own needs, or even consider setting aside our own needs to help out others. We will just be so immersed in this abundant reality, and helping each other is just, because we all want to help. It's this false scarcity matrix, this bullshit reality. That's what causes us to start to step away from our nature of just wanting to help, because we sometimes have to pick and choose where we pour our attention in this false scarcity reality. So I'm very much looking forward for that all to shift. But in the meantime, as we walk out of this sort of last moment of night, this last desperate attempt to hold on to by the darkness, let's help each other. Let's help each other any which way we can. And that applies to anyone listening too. If you need help, don't be afraid to ask. That's part of the conditioning as well. And part of the scarcity is like, oh, I'm afraid to ask because, I know I can't help with this, or whatever the stories we tell ourselves. So let's model the reality that we want to move to and start creating that now with what we have. And then the abundance will flow. So anyway, just thanks for speaking to that, Roseanne. And yeah, I see Rusty has your hand raised. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, how is manifestation different than prayer?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really, from what I've learned about how Ieshua taught, and if we get away from the church's idea, the false religious matrix that took his beautiful teachings and put a box around it, or attempted to at least, I would say they're one and the same in the purest form. Because prayer, I mean, I guess you could categorize it as a more, maybe as a more active mental process to sort of maybe speak to and calm the mind and come back to that space of trust and surrender, knowing that it's all good. God's got this. So and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with praying, as long as it's not in the form that the church kind of taught, which is in this sort of groveling, begging, coming from a scarcity mindset, which is where they insert that distortion, and that actually uses the law of manifestation, the law of vibration, against us. Because if I'm exuding this energy of I don't have this, and I'm actually afraid I'm not going to have it, I might be saying words that don't necessarily match my energy. But if my energy is aligned with this sort of scarcity mindset, then that's going to attract that same reality. It's not that God's necessarily picking and choosing what's happening. He set the whole framework in motion. The laws of nature, God's law, are absolute. So we can either learn what they are and align with them, harmonize with them, or we can keep butting up against them and suffering. So
Okay.
if we're oh, go ahead.
Okay. So manifesting, and this is just my perspective, if I manifest something, I'm going to manifest it for me, most likely. And I believe that everyone listening to you right now can agree with that. But if I pray for something, my prayer is 99% of the time for someone else. Do you get me?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I would still say, for the effectiveness of prayer or manifestation, whatever we want to label it, because the divine essence is beyond label. It's beyond boxes. It's beyond definition. So these words really fail to contain what it is, but everything is frequency and vibration. It's this resonance that permeates from our conscious focal point.
Okay.
So if my conscious focal point is exuding a recognition that there is no other, separation is merely an experience, then manifestation, I would say that form of manifestation solely for the individualized self is not really even going to work. It's not true manifestation.
Okay.
Whereas,
okay, I hear you. So let me finish now. Every time I manifest something, usually it's for myself. I'm not gonna lie, I'm just being honest. Because I want me to be happier. So I'm gonna manifest that for me. But if I'm praying, I ain't praying for me. I'm praying for someone else. And I'm telling you now, my manifestation don't come true. but my prayer happens instantaneously. I have seen it on multiple times when I do it for someone else, that it is immediately. So that's why I'm like, what is the difference? I can't compare the two. Manifestation, trying to make something come true. And maybe I'm manifesting. Maybe I'm doing it. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Maybe I'm doing it for the wrong person. Because I know when I manifest stuff, it 90% of the times for me. But when I pray, 99% of the times it's for you.
Well, I mean, you just said it. You said the manifestations, when they are applied to you, they don't often work because you're not actually tapping into the coherent frequency of all of creation, which includes recognition that there is no separation. And so if I'm dissolving this image or this idea of the self and truly just pointing my energy towards the highest expression of both myself and everything, because there is no separation, then that highest reality is going to manifest. And if I'm aligning with the care and compassion, the unconditional love that permeates all of creation by praying for another, then I'm embodying that frequency. And it is much easier to sort of do that in that sort of service to others orientation, because we naturally want to help, as I mentioned before. But if I'm directing that energy towards a solely sort of service to self orientation, then the manifestation may or may not happen, because it's only going to ride that wave, essentially, if I'm aligning with that highest frequency, which doesn't even really recognize
That's
of others and self.
maybe because that's the way we was supposed to go, was that route. Maybe it's because the manifestation wasn't meant for us, it was meant for us to give to others. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding manifestation with prayer. Maybe if I would just go up to somebody and say, hey, let me manifest with you, I'm gonna say good things about you. That's, I'm gonna ask good things, that the Lord does good things, that He manifests good things in you, whether it be, I just don't understand that, how manifesting and prayer are one. I don't understand that. I just don't understand that, because I have been shown a million times how prayer has been answered. But I can't speak once on manifestation.
Well, again, if we get lost in the definitions and try and confine things based on words, then that's what introduces man's distortion and man's ability to manipulate based on the words. So I'm not suggesting that based on preconceived notions of what manifestation as this sort of, how The Secret embodied showed that as your way to manifest a car or lots of money or all these different things. Very selfish, very service to self oriented. So that's a pretty false reality to push onto people. I have a lot of issues with those kind of things. But if we're looking at the pure form of just how am I
the truth?
How am I connected? Hey, can I finish? Can I finish what I'm saying? So how am I connected to our Creator? How am I riding that wave of divine influence? And insert whatever word of however you want to connect with that. It doesn't really matter what the word is. It's truly just the embodiment, the being. And that's what Christ came to teach. He was a perfect representation of that divine connection at all times. And we're to follow that. We're to follow that representation. So he wasn't picking apart what words one had to say to declare this is how I'm communicating. He even rejected dogma or rituals outright, because anytime I confine any part of myself to a particular box, I'm missing the point of what does that embodiment truly feel like? How is it represented within me, not as a mental construct, but as a true way to live. So that's why he is the way. He represents the way, because that way exists within us. And so if I embody that, it doesn't matter what words I use to describe it. It just happens. It flows through, and we're able to perform miracles, whether we call them prayers or manifestation or miracles. It doesn't matter, because I'm riding that divine wave to allow the unconditional love, that ultimate goodness, to flow through my vessel into this creation.
Well, let me ask you, what do you usually ask for manifestation, if you don't mind?
I don't really ask for manifestations. I ask for clarity. I ask for continued clarity throughout my day and however I show up, so that I can be the best example for God to lead, so that I can see the signs and see the nudges and nods. So anytime I pray or ask for anything, it's always coming back to myself, so that I can better receive. How can I better receive what it is that I'm being shown? So I don't usually spend time asking for specific things or things in that way. So that's kind of how I communicate with the divine.
So so would you say that you pray more than you, obviously you don't manifest, so would you say you pray?
Well, manifestation isn't really something that takes conscious will most of the time. It's a result. It's a result of that embodiment. So I certainly manifest, but it's not through conscious, oh, I want this or I want that, I need this on this timeline or whatever. I don't create those constructs or those confinements
I
for
thought
divine.
manifestation was something you think of, it happens. Something you want, something desire, and it happens. That's what I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, because this is what I've thought. If you manifest it, if you think it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Now, I could be wrong, but if I'm wrong, I bet there's a million others out there that's wrong with me, because they're thinking the same shit that I'm thinking. Okay? So, and that's the only reason why I ask. I'm not here to pick and choose, but my manifestations, my prayers, that's the power. Now, that's the only reason why I ask. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Teach me the right way.
Well, there's only one way, and it's the way. And it's really just recognition that there is no other. So anything I do, whether it's thoughts, words, or actions, if it's not in full alignment and recognition that anyone I'm interacting with is just another part of you, another part of me, then that helps to sort of strip away any action where I'm stepping away from that fundamental truth. And so then if I want to pour conscious thought into healing or helping anybody, then it flows through and moves in that way. I'm able to direct that energy in a much more effective manner. So I would agree with you that the ways you've been taught about manifestation are completely wrong. They're all in this sort of service to self orientation of how can I embellish and augment my ego, this idea that I am separate, and give myself whatever without the recognition of the all and the connection to it. Now, where this can fall out of balance the other direction, it doesn't mean that we have to sign any deals of piousness or poverty. We don't need to subject ourselves to be impoverished just to have that flow through us. We get to be included in that equation because it's all connected, right? So it's just that, how can I allow this divine energy to flow through me and create that heaven on earth reality through everything that I do in all moments? And anytime I step away from that, to recognize, have the discernment to recognize and step back into it faster.
I agree with that. How can you allow it to flow through you? And that's why I'm curious how everyone else that's in here listening how does it flow through them? And can they give their experiences on manifestation and prayers, on the differences? Can they do that? I would love to hear their differences on that. I really would.
Share
Thank you.
something. Might
Yeah,
I
go
share
ahead.
something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say hello, nice to meet you. For me, well, first of all, I'm really into human design, and in that there are different energy types. One is called a manifester, and one is called a manifesting generator. And I happen to be a manifesting generator, and so I do resonate with the energy of manifestation. And I do just want to say first that it may be that it feels however it feels for you, because you might be a different energy type that creates. We all create, and in my heart, it's a creation that comes from God creation. But each person has their own beliefs. But we all create, but it tends to be that people who have an energy type of manifester or manifesting generator tend to manifest, and those who do not have that, they create in different ways. For instance, Justin is a projector, and his creation, we're all creating, but it's going to be more of a projection that's put out, and then just like
Can I say that I don't mean this to separate anyone. I just wanted to do it to hear how other people's inputs are on it. I didn't mean to do it to separate the
no separation. I hear you.
the two.
So I'll just finish my thought. I'm not taking it as separation either. I feel like it's a beautiful conversation because we all do it a little differently. So I was just saying what's helped me is to understand that we do have different ways that we do it. And when I hear that somebody says, I don't quite get that, I often feel as if maybe they have an energy type that isn't actually a manifester, quote unquote. So there's that. And then for me, it's quite simple. If you know how a mushroom works, I consider prayer and connection to God kind of like the mycelium. Do you know what mycelium is? It's the part of the mushroom that is in a thread-like interconnected pattern that grows under the earth, and then the mushroom sprouts from that. So the mushroom is actually the fruit of the mycelium, right? But under the ground, there's this beautiful network of mycelium that's running and holding the earth in, and other plants and even animals are dependent on that. Some of them eat the mycelium, these kinds of things. And then there's the mushroom. And for me, manifestation or something coming of something would be more like the mushroom. It's the fruit of it, but it started with the mycelium that's underneath, which is like the strong rooted in energy that is faith and prayer. Just wanted to share that.
Okay,
Thank you for hearing me.
Okay. I understand that, Lila Bird. I understand that. That's great, and that's good information. But what do you do? Who do you, when you manifest, who are you manifesting to?
Oh, I don't have I'm not, I just say, God, what do you want? I mean, perfect. It goes back to the conversation we were having before about helping these
That's
people.
basically not even manifesting. That's basically just speaking to the Lord.
Right. It's make me a servant. Of course, my manifestation isn't mine, it's God's.
I do that shit all day long in my head. So am I manifesting all day long when I'm speaking to the Lord?
I would argue so. Yes, I believe so. That's what it is.
I love y'all. You're awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Lila, and thanks, Rusty, for the great question. And yeah, it's a great conversation. And we do. It's like all of these obfuscating things that get defined, like like what is manifesting, and it takes us away from the simplicity of what it really is, which is just how can you align with your best and highest self, communicating with the divine in the ways that you do, and how can you be a vessel for that divine energy to flow through, to bring it into this space? How can we tap into...
I just wanted to pick y'all's brains. I'm sorry, brother. I just
Oh,
wanted to pick your brains and tell you I love you. I'm here to support you, not put you down. I promise. I love every one of y'all.
I appreciate it. Love you too, brother. Yeah, no, I didn't feel anything otherwise. It's just a good question, a good topic to get into. So yeah, with that, I saw Jill raise your hand. Did you want to jump in?
Hi, everyone. I was actually going to say something else about a movie, and I had a question, but I do want to comment on what says. It says "Guess Who" on my phone, so I don't know the person's name. About the manifestation and praying. So I feel kind of like what Lila said about so say if you do Reiki, or if you're going to do some energy work on someone, you're obviously connecting with their higher self. And in any Reiki that I send, when I'm not with a person, we always, I feel Lila would agree that we always say for the greater good. Let it be God's will, or, that the person's higher self, as far as accepting. And when you had said that you don't always get what you want or what you're manifesting, maybe it's, you're not, maybe, how to say this.
And that's why I'm asking, am I doing it wrong? Because my manifestations don't work, but my prayers happen immediately. So
it's
teach
more
me the right
authentic.
way.
Maybe you don't actually really feel like you deserve what you're manifesting, because and this is just, again, from working on chakras and things, self-love and what you really feel that we deserve. It's all about intention. Everything's intention.
That's right.
Intention.
It is intention.
So,
And
yeah.
I have to say my prayers are answered immediately. My manifestations, that's what I feel at that. That's bullshit to me. Prayer happens immediately. And they may be 2 in 1. They may be, I might be wrong, but I just know when I say a prayer, it happens. And when I say my prayers, I say in Jesus' name. Manifestation, I'm just saying, I hope this happens for me, Lord. I really need this to happen.
Yeah.
And it really don't happen. A lot of people do that. And I'm just speaking on people's behalf, because there's a lot of folks out here that won't speak up, that do the same shit I do. And they won't speak up on it. But I will. But I'm just telling you, I just know that when I pray, and especially when I put my hands on someone, my prayers 99% of the time are not for me. Fuck me. I don't give a shit about me. I'm just a messenger. It's the one that's in me that does all the work. And it's the one that's in you that does all the work. I ain't shit. You ain't shit. None of y'all are shit. It's the one that's in you. This vessel goes away. Your vessel goes away. Ash to ash, dust to dust. My prayers are answered immediately. Anywho, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, Jill, did you want to finish what you were saying?
No, it just, maybe it's the verbiage, that's what's happened so far, or that's what, so perhaps moving forward, the manifestations will be better. But I would have to say, not with taking so much thought about it. But so that's all I have to say on that. If anybody else wants to add anything, otherwise, then I'll go to what I was going to ask. So
Yeah, feel free to go with your question. We can shift topics.
okay. So Matt saw a movie. It's called Eternity, and then I think Cheryl ended up watching it, and then I ended up watching it. So I'm intrigued by it because I've always heard kind of the notion like we die every night. In this movie, without giving anything away because it's in the preview, but it's pretty cool because it's got a little bit of like defending your life and a little bit of the shift, like your Akashic records and being able to view your different versions of you, different parts of your life, if you will. It speaks of the void. People pass, and so I thought about Darth, obviously, but it also made me look at it differently, because we would spend an eternity someplace. That's the premise of it. Once we cross over to a different dimension, when we leave this earth plane, it's a choice, essentially. This is what it showed anyways, but in simpler terms, it was like cowboy world, the simple life. So made me think about like when people say, oh, the big sleep. So if all these little sleeps, because we could change our world every single day when we rise. I could just be like, I'm not cleaning anymore because it's free will. So I could just be like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not. And we kind of all did with that great resignation from our jobs and relationships and stuff. So do we essentially die every night, every sleep, but then we keep choosing the same thing, or because we're stuck in whatever? There's a question in there someplace, Justin. I think you get what I'm saying. Thanks.
Yeah, no, great. It's a great thing to bring up because that is the ultimate purpose of death. It's a reset. It's not a thing to fear. It's not something to be afraid of. It's a reset. It's an opportunity to recalibrate. So, but death is not just one way of thinking about it, where our heart ceases to beat and our physical body dies. Of course, that is one way to look at it, and that is certainly a reset. But it also applies to sleep. Yes, we can consider that as sort of like a forced reset. Now, there are schools of thought out there that if our body is in alignment enough, we don't even really need to sleep. Now, this is very advanced practice. It's not something I'm suggesting that anybody immediately jump into, though if you feel called to experiment, we're all free to do that. But there are people out there who have stepped away from the consistent need of sleep. And I feel like this happens and can only happen if we're in a more embodied state where the death and rebirth becomes a part of our breath, becomes a part of our daily walking lives. So then death is not, or the sleep is not necessarily forced upon us as an opportunity to reset, but we do it in each and every moment, each and every breath. I'm dying to what was. I'm letting that old me go so I can step into what is new. And people have misconceptions at times that means, okay, if I'm dying to what was, then I have to like throw away everything and start completely over. No, it's just a opportunity to really assess, okay, what is aligning me to my highest path and what's not. And that's why the cycle of the yearly cycle is helpful to see as well, or the daily cycle, the night and day, the night where things fall away, the day where I step into action, or the yearly cycle, fall and winter being the death, and spring and summer being the life. So these are cyclical patterns that if we align with, not just on a yearly basis or on a daily basis or a monthly basis, but in a moment to moment, it's where it becomes every breath or every blink or whatever iteration you want to align with, when we're just prepared to die in each and every moment so that I can step into what is. Then the divine has a perfect vehicle to move through without the attachment to the things or whatever sort of story we've grown fond of, whatever sort of narrative. We're truly free for the divine to flow through in the best way possible. So yeah, sleep as a representation of that, it's a great example, because it gives us an opportunity to wake up each new day, and I can choose to bring with me the worry and things that I took from yesterday into today. We can consciously bridge that in sort of unconscious ways and harm ourselves if we want to. Or I can choose to only carry with me the things that bring me life and the things that bring life around me. Let go of the death. So it's an invitation each and every time. And then cascading out to the larger cycle of our physical death. You know, no matter how long we live, which I do believe we can live a very, very long time, eventually there is a physical death. And that's simply just an opportunity to shift, to reset. Either once we've exhausted every layer of this incarnation and choose to go through that reset, or if we're unconsciously choosing to have that reset by continuing down the self-harming patterns, which is what Ieshua described, the path of life or path of death. So whether we realize it or not, we're always choosing one or the other. So again, going back to sleep, if I can treat each new day as an opportunity to shift and to let go of whatever it is that's no longer serving me, then I'm entering into a whole new reality. It's like that talk we did way back, which, it was such a great series on the rising out of Mirkwood, where we spoke about how entering into every new doorway is a new portal. You could look at sleep the same way. You're entering a portal and you're coming out the other side, and you can choose to carry with you all the baggage and stuff, all the stuff that is not necessary. You can choose to bring it with you through each portal, or you can say, okay, every time I step through a new doorway, every time I turn on a new song, every time I enter a new conversation, I'm only going to carry with me the vibration that is enlivening, the joy, the peace, whatever sort of necessary antidote is for that moment to sort of rectify whatever issues we might have invented, and realize that there are no issues at all. The issue is you. So when we can change that, then every portal, every sleep, every doorway, everything is an opportunity to recalibrate. Then it becomes every breath, every blink. It's just an opportunity to shift and come back into that harmonious connected self, to where there is no other. And so the ability to tap into that heavenly frequency is always there. Now, it's, again, much easier said than done, and much harder in our sort of more immature states. But and of course we can learn about this conceptually, we can speak to it infinitely, but it's really about application. What happens when, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and how do I end my day? And it's good to be conscious of the sleep cycle, so that I'm not embedding the sleep with the sort of lower vibrational thought patterns, that muck. How can I shed that before I even get ready to go into that portal, to make it much easier on the other side? And not to mention the whole dream subconscious venturing that we go through, which is all about sort of dissecting and, in my opinion, dissecting those issues and sort of letting them go, or bringing our attention to them, whatever subconscious layers need to be further examined so that they truly can be let go. So all of it's the same, it's really, we can make it as complex as we want to, but it's really quite simple. You know, we chose to enter into this experience to forget who we truly are, just so that we could go through the process of remembering and sharing and comparing notes all along the way. So each sleep is just simply a learning point, or it can be. It can be an unconscious pattern. Everything can be that as well. Or we can imbue conscious life into each and every moment, each and every sleep. So yeah, I think that kind of covered the gist of your question, but I'll pass it back to you and let me know if there's anything else we can get into from that.
No, because that was so much. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it twice, because that was fantastic. But you took it places I obviously hadn't, and that's why I asked you. I knew I would get a marvelous response. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a lot to think about. That it's amazing. Everything's so amazing. Thank you for that. All right, love you guys. Bye.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for the great question. And yeah, again, we don't need to fear death. We can imbue that wonderful process as a season, as a cycle, as an iteration, and go through. And it's an invitation to let go of what's no longer serving, so I can enliven myself. It's a helpful cleansing and clearing. So sleep is just another one of those representations of that. Yeah, I see Reno had your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, a great conversation. Yeah, really enjoying the reflections around sleep. Yeah, and it's funny when things change with life, we always, like, whether it's stress or detox, or it's amazing how that affects our sleep, or the moon cycle, or one thing I'm still trying to figure out is when I spend a month like camping or something like that, when I come back to a house, I have this crazy experience where it just, like, my sleep just turns into something really weird. So it's really bizarre. But I wanted to speak about the manifestation and prayer thing, because yeah, maybe I'll get back to that. But my biggest thing in my heart at the moment to speak about is Mark Ganga talks about a reset, and he tells this hilarious story with this beautiful moment with his son when playing video games, and and so he would pretend he's playing with his son, but the video game controller wouldn't be connected to the machine, and so they'd just be playing, and eventually the kid got older and kind of figured it out. It was like, "What, Dad? You're not even playing with me." You know, he's smart enough. He got older, and then he plugs in the controller, and of course, as a little kid, he would always lose. But eventually, he would get good, and and eventually he would beat his dad, and he'd beat his dad so much the score would be like, 1,000 to 1, or about 10 billion to 1, and then the dad would get so annoyed and just turn off the machine, and it just he uses that in his seminar about marriage and about relationships and a reset. Like how in a video game or in any kind of experience like that, the only way to be close to other people or anything is to understand that at some point it's going to be 1,000,000 to 1 in terms of the points system, and it just the perception of the point scoring is going to get out of whack, and that the only way to kind of that there's this kind of internal reset of like a new game and a new experience with your spouse or with your partner or with any relationship, really, with yourself. So yeah, I just sort of watching that recently, and I just wanted to talk about that. I guess it's a forgiveness thing or that kind of thing. But yeah, okay. So with the prayer and manifestation. I mean, prayer is normally talking about to a higher power, asking for guidance or help, surrendering, like desire for like a higher power, you know. Whereas manifestation, I think the two words are interesting to me, because I was trying to think, what is the difference between the words? What does that mean to different people? And I guess it's more about focusing like the mind or the emotions or energy on what you want. It's like it's not just like magic where you just say the magic word or whatever and it appears. I guess it's like just being really internally certain about which direction you're going to go, or what you're truly feeling or wanting. So it can be like visualization or affirmation or gratitude, like just aligning yourself with the desired outcome. That the belief is your energy, or intention attracts the result. Like a visualization of what you want to succeed in. So yeah, I just thought that they were quite similar, the prayer and manifestation. But I was trying to think, what is it about manifestation that, and I don't really, you know, have a choice in how to see it. I think they're quite similar, but I really enjoy the idea that, you know, yeah, that it's through us, and that God's acting through us. You know, it's not just magic or something. So yeah. Yeah, that's all I had for now.
Is it a monetary manifestation that's not working? I thank you for your answer. I appreciate that. That was awesome. I struggle with my manifestations. Are, like I said, the 90% of the time it's all for me. You know, I'm like, Lord, get me out of the situation or whatnot. And I don't see the answer. But if I do it for someone else, and that's not a manifestation, because I'm not saying it in Jesus' name for me. I'm just saying, Lord, get me out of this situation. You know, or I'm gonna be able to pay my rent and my electric and my water, you know, and get groceries in the house. I'm manifesting that. But it really don't happen. I mean, everything still works out in God's will. I know it does. But those manifestations are like for things from my own personal influence, I should say. To whereas when my prayers are for others. And when I see them hit others and them answered in the midst of your prayer, you can't top that. You just can't. And there's multiple people out there that can speak on this. That's why I'd like to hear what everyone has tried and what have they succeeded with. That's all I'm asking.
Well, yeah, anyone is welcome to share or speak up at any time. I mean, just specifically on what you're saying and reasons why what you're calling manifestations might not be in alignment with that is if there is a higher reason for you to go through.
If it's for the people and by the people, let's hear the people. Fuck. Speak the fuck up, people. Not just two people. All the people on here listening. Speak the fuck up. That's all I can say. I mean, shit.
I hear you in that request to have others speak up, and again, that has been laid out there to have others be welcome to speak up if they want to. However, I do know that there are some that are unable to or just don't want to, and that's okay too. You know, we want to be welcoming and accepting of everyone wherever they are and however they choose to participate.
Is anyone out there needing reassurance that for safety or for to be heard or to be seen here, that they might not want to speak up? Yeah. We offer that reassurance is my request.
Yeah, absolutely. Is certainly established at the beginning of the show and reiterated throughout, and plenty of opportunity. So anyone is more than welcome to jump in. Much reassurance. If there's any way that I can express that any other ways than I have, I'm happy to.
Just let them know that they're hurting more people by being quiet than they are by speaking up.
I don't know if I'm going to put that on anyone in particular, because we're all in different spaces and we'd like to share as we'd like to. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and shift to potentially a different topic. If anyone would like to jump in on something else and speak to anything, you're more than welcome to.
Hey Justin, we're on our way home in the car. Can you speak for me? We're having a really hard time hearing you right now.
Hey Jenna, it's good to see you here. I did speak on your situation, I think when you guys were probably looking at the house. So I did give a good update to everybody. So if there's anything else you want to say in addition to that,
We went to go look at the house and they neglected to tell us until we got there that somebody already put an offer on the house. So we had to turn around and go home.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's got to be frustrating. But, you know, I know that God moves through everything. So that place obviously wasn't ready for y'all or wasn't meant for y'all. So I'm trusting the highest alignment that whatever situation and location you guys need to move to is going to show up and reveal to you. So we'll keep saying prayers and intentions towards that reality. So thanks for letting us know. And yeah, again, if there's anything else you want to mention in that regard about what y'all are going through, I did give a quick summary, but happy to hear anything else if you'd like to speak.
I wasn't privy to your summary because I had the phone off. We were going to look at the house, but nobody showed up, so we couldn't even get in to look at it. So I missed everything you said for nothing. I feel bad.
Oh no, don't feel bad. Yeah, I was just happy to speak up since I know you guys were busy. But yeah, I feel like I said everything that you've relayed to me. So I think we did a pretty good job at letting everybody know. So again, just thanks for being here, and we'll keep on setting those intentions to getting y'all into the space that you need to in as best as possible way.
All right, thanks, love.
Yeah, thanks, Jenna. Anyone else want to jump in? Have any topics or questions or things you want to carry us into?
Hey, Justin, I've got a question about the Gospel of Judas. Have you done a show on that or investigated that?
No, I have not done a show nor really investigated it much. So I couldn't speak on much detail around it, but I'm happy to do my best if you have something.
Yeah. I went into the Gospel of Thomas, and I thought it was interesting around. I think I watched the show from great YouTuber O'Connor, I think his name is, and he talked about the snake in climbing the tree of, like, the snake is Jesus in the Garden of Eden. which I thought was pretty. And so okay, so I'll start it from the beginning. So in the Gospel of Judas, Judas is the favored disciple, and he's not a traitor. You know, he's the one he's the only one that truly understands Jesus, just according to the text. And yeah, this scroll was only magically found in 2006. That was, you know, it went through all these different processes. It was damaged and all this. So it's from the Nakamati library, the 42 scrolls that were found in between 1945 and 1970, I think, in Egypt. So it has been dated to be from you know, I think 150 years after Jesus's you know, time. And so yeah, so he shares it. So Jesus, it's about secret knowledge that only Judas understands. And the whole reason why Judas betrays Jesus in the end is because he was wanting to free Jesus from his body. This is the tenet of Gnosticism. And that was actually, so he wasn't wanting that. He knew that Jesus wanted that, and that he was doing that he was doing Jesus's kind of work. So it was a heavy burden for him to bear. And Jesus made many comments that none of the disciples understand him, that they're always praying to your God, you know, like I guess it's similar to like, oh God, you know, bless me or bless the physicality. And I guess the essence of it is it's sort of anti-physicality and pro-spiritual body. And there's even a moment in it where Peter is watching Jesus be crucified, and he sees a ghost of a baby Jesus above Jesus being crucified, and the baby Jesus ghost is laughing. And I guess it's supposed to symbolize maybe that, you know, even in suffering, there's a kind of spiritual innocence that we can connect to, I guess. But yeah, so what else have I got? Yeah, so the demiurge, you know how there's this whole demiurge in the New Testament about, you know, some people say that the God of the Old Testament is the demiurge, you know, in the creation narrative, because he's creating physicality. So I've never understood that. Why? What is the purpose of the God of the Old Testament being a demiurge if it's to create, you know, in the Gnosticism lens of seeing things, it's because he created that electrical circuit of physicality. Yeah, so I guess it gets right to the heart of like early Christian mysticism, which is why I'm interested in it. And it's so new. 2006 is when all this information came out, so it's so new. Yeah, so I guess it's like spiritual liberation rather than earthly salvation is the essence of it. And yeah, I think Jesus in there speaks about like a hierarchy of angels, and that the human soul's need to escape the material world. I said that already. Yeah, so that's kind of as much as I can sort of remember at the moment. Yeah, anything you find interesting about that?
Yeah, I can comment on some stuff there. So this actually brings up a great presentation from the Awaken the Christ Within Summit this was by David Avocado Wolf, and he was referencing some of Rudolf Steiner's work on the really very simple and very helpful way that I find to break down our veering away from the Christ or the way, which is either through the lens of Lucifer or through the lens of Ahriman. And we might have heard of Lucifer, Ahriman not as much, but what these represent is Lucifer is the false light, or the sort of solely non-physical representation of pursuit. And this manifests within us through forms of escapism. In my opinion, many Buddhist and even Hindu teachings are very much Luciferian in a way, because they teach that this world is not, even Gnostic teachings, they teach that this world is captured, and that it's for us to escape from, or for us to move past, and to only enter the light being, and sort of negate the physical completely. So that's sort of the one end of the spectrum. I know the name Lucifer kind of carries a heavy weight to it, and I don't mean it in that sense, but just to illustrate that end of the spectrum. And then the other end of the spectrum, Ahriman, or Mammon, is all about physicality. It's all about physical pursuits of power, whether this be acquisition of materials, property, status, things that can be gained solely from a physical perspective. Science is very much an Ahriman creation, because it's all based on physical signs only, with negating completely the spiritual side. So both of these are avenues that we can get pulled off of, but where is the way? It's always right in between. It's that balance point. So you can look at it from a masculine, feminine perspective. Feminine would be the Luciferian, masculine would be the materialistic Ahriman. You can even invert those at times. That you can invert one being the feminine could be the material, the mother, the earth, kind of layered to it, physical, and the father being like the heavenly father, and that sort of. You can go both ways with that, but the point is, it's a spectrum, and where to find that balance point in the middle. So it could be, and I have heard the story around Judas being not actually betraying Jesus in that way, but he was trying to fulfill and bring Ieshua into the higher form, seeing that recognition of true embodiment, and perhaps growing weary with the trials of doing it in the ways that Ieshua was. And so whether there was coordination between the two or not is unclear, but that could certainly be the intention behind Judas's actions, not to betray, but certainly to bring that expression to a whole nother level and layer, and ability to affect and impact mankind in an even more and greater way. And it did. It certainly did. So the divine was moving through Judas to do that. And I don't necessarily agree with the continuous guilt and shame that's thrown upon his name of this ultimate betrayal. I will enjoy continuing to discover new lenses to view that from. However, just going back to the sort of two paths, or the really three paths that we can walk, and really there's just one, and there's veering off one end or the other, which kind of goes back to like I loved how you shared way back when we did the virtues, and how there's the middle path in between, and then there's the sins and the opposite extremes. We have this sort of divergent that we can veer off at any moment. So it's not to negate the physicality as if it's just something to escape from or to elevate past, but it's to bring heavens into the physical, which is very, very challenging. It's arguably easier to escape and go that route. It still can be challenging in ways, but what's even more challenging is to bring that heavenly essence into the physicality, to not negate it. And the other way around, to not go fully physical and negate that we are light manifest physically, and to go that way around as well, to be truly that balance point, which is why I love the tree as a great example of a embodied being with roots growing down deep while the branches are reaching up high. If the branches are only reaching out high without a grounded approach, which would be that Luciferian false light, escapist, I'm trying to get out of this kind of reality, then it's going to topple over because it has no grounding. It's not rooted in this physical experience. And we're here to be physical. We're not here to like, we chose this above everything else, because this is the highest representation of that experience of going through the contrasting evolutionary learning journey of realizing and learning more deeply what and who I am, by also experiencing what I am not. And so it's necessary to have both. So that would be the example of the tree toppling over if I'm only reaching to escape. And then the other way around, if all my focus is on growing my roots and growing very attached to that persona, and then I'm not going to grow at all. You know, I'm not going to be receiving the sun and the wind in that deeper sort of way. You know, all the elements come together, and that's why even the like the 6-pointed star is actually just the 4 elements come together as one. They create that the 2 triangles coming together. And if you've seen the elements represented in this way, some of them have, I'll just pull it up real quick just so I'm not misrepresenting it. So I don't have that picture here as easily accessed as I thought. But anyway, that's the highest expression is balance. So to not negate one or the other. We are certainly light manifest physically, but we are also very physical. You know, we're here to be physical. We're not here to escape the physicality, which is why I don't really agree with the Gnostic interpretation of, so going back to your question around the demiurge being, you know, something that was the Old Testament representation, and it represents that this world was created as a prison, or however they whatever sort of conclusion they come to. No, the demiurge exists within all of us just as well as the Christ. You know, like the demiurge is just the manifestation of our ego, of our sort of lowered, individualized, which is not a bad thing, but it can manifest in sort of even potentially evil ways, where we look at another and say, oh, that is a separate being, and so therefore it justifies any action I have against them for pursuit of my pleasure. So I do feel like the biblical representations were supposed to teach this and illustrate it in a way, just like the whole book is supposed to be an allegorical representation of us. I think the definitions and the names were meticulously and strategically switched around and obfuscated to confuse us. So we have these questions of like, why is our loving God, why is it killing all these people or hurting people in this way? But if we have a better understanding of like, no, this is the representation of that sort of self-serving lower form of self that can enact and do those kind of things, then it makes those stories make a whole lot more sense of who they were following, where were the people of Israel or whomever else, who were they following at any point in time? Were they truly following the benevolent, divine, unconditional love, or were they following some false representation of it, whether it was physically manifest in a sort of powerful being or not? It doesn't matter. It's still the same. The allegory still applies. So yeah, those are, I think I touched on all the things that you mentioned. So I'll just pass it back and see if you have anything more.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. That was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have an absolute on it, and I think that's the point, isn't it? Like, there's like when I talk to my mom, who has this she's very like old school Christian on Orthodox sort of way, and she agrees with the idea that, you know, we started in singularity in the garden, and now we're in duality, I guess, and that Jesus's message is meant to bring us back, you know, to the way of singularity. You know, it's very much how she, you know, can expresses it in a real simplistic journey of it all. and that middle path through duality. And yeah, it brings me, I mean, I had a few people discussing like the role of women, women being a helper. They were created to help man, but like an equal partner. And just, but it was Eve who ate the apple, because she wasn't content with not having knowledge. It was a kind of walled garden, or there wasn't the experience to experience itself, perhaps, just in that innocent way. But it was interesting how it was her that had the curiosity to, to want to have this experience, not him. So yeah, I think there's some credit there for women in that, if that's a representation. If people start to get the dynamics out of balance of, who's for who or whatever, which I hadn't heard that before, so I thought that was cool. But yeah, so, and then I just reflect on my own journey with like I sort of look in hindsight now in my 7 years of detox. So that sort of started in 2019, and just that really, it was a journey into non-physicality for me, just in my way of doing it. As I said, I'm trying not to have any absolutes in this. I'm really trying to stay open. And if I'm honest with myself, it really was an attempt to escape reality or my body, to head into the light, with fasting and all that kind of stuff. And now having some more grounding, solid foods, whatever it is, I feel like I have found a little bit more balance than what I had before in that, so that's just for me where I'm at with that one. But yeah, what is it? I mean, so I'm feeling interested. Yeah, I noticed you use the word divergent, and it's funny. Coincidentally, I'm reading a book called Divergent at the moment, which is this, it's quite famous. 10 years ago, I think there was a movie about it, but people might remember there was 5 factions in this sort of futuristic society, and the main character comes from abnegation, which is this very selfless group, and they actually have the power in the society because they're always very selfish. They don't even look in the mirror because they don't want to be so self-obsessed, and they wear plain clothes and all this sort of stuff. But then she chooses to go to the bravery group. I think it's called Dauntless. So there's 5 groups. One's about peace, so amity. One's about truth, candor, and one's about erudite, which is about knowledge. And it actually comes from the knowledge group, the erudite group, this kind of evil, that then disrupts the whole system, that they have this structure and order to provide stability. But all of that is disrupted by the knowledge group, the erudite group, manipulating the dauntless group, which is sort of the warriors, to then, start a coup on the whole system. When, the other groups are sort of unawares or unable to stop it. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting because then it's only the divergent nature that then is able to save everyone. And I just thought that was a brilliant allegory in there for that matches the conversation. But yeah, I don't want to speak too long, and I'm feeling really interested, and I love. I think Justin and I both have a need for open space, and yeah. So yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Reno. It's that series, I read it a while ago, but that divergence, and that's exactly what Eve did in that moment. And depending on how you frame that story of was Yahweh a benevolent caretaker, or was he a slave owner? And was the apple representational of freedom? And so Eve, through her representing the feminine sort of energetic movement that is always defying containment of sorts. She is the She is the chaotic energy, which is what fuels creative expression through the emotions, energy and motion. So she represented that by acting as a catalyst to break them out of that cycle. And so there was the divergence, and it wouldn't have happened if she hadn't done that. Which, we can look at that story from many, many different lenses and layers of, is that us choosing to step away from singularity and enter into the duality, which will kind of play into one of the songs that I want to play us out with, which is another one by Cat Stevens, Wild World, which we'll get into as well, but sort of just this this monastic call to warn of the stepping into the wild world, which is, but that's the wild world is the only place where creative expression can happen, because we have to enter into the forgetfulness to forget who we are and perceive ourselves as separate in order to even have this experience exist at all. So it's necessary. So just going back to the Ahriman versus Lucifer kind of ends of the spectrum, they both are medicinal at times. If we're locked into the Ahrimanic way, just using an example of something like plant medicine. If someone is locked into an Ahrimanic way of being so tied to the story and status and money and possessions and the job and all of that, or traumatic patterns from physical happenings or whatever, then that sort of luciferic medicine, again, I know that word is weighted and sort of gives a negative connotation, but it doesn't need to be. But that medicine of being the plant medicine is more of an escapist kind of medicine. But it's so helpful to bring that grounded being into and helping them spread their branches to reach to the heavens, to know what even is, to get a taste of that. But that same medicine to someone who maybe has done it consistently and has no grounding can lead to schizophrenia, can lead to such an ungrounded state that they're that tree that just topples over because they have no roots. So agreed, there's no end all be all for solutions or what needs to be in any particular moment, because we're going to be veering on different edges of that spectrum, and the medicine to bring us back to balance is going to be different. So to be open to that flow and open to the catalyst, the divergent paths that bring us back to, that knock us out of the loop, the cue as that dash knocking us out of a loop and coming back to a spiral so I can keep growing. I've got to be open to wherever that Christic influence is, because the Christ is balance, but the Christ is going to lead us to whatever sort of medicine we need in that moment, whether that be grounding or elevating. And our discernment is to know what's right for us in every moment, and to trust that we're going to be shown what we need. So yeah, it's beautiful to view it in that way, because it really just helps to not be so rigid and confining about what's right in whatever moment, because it could be even an action that we would perceive as evil or wrong was necessary in that particular story to act as a catalyst. So then it comes back to, as you kind of alluded to at the beginning, of the forgiveness or just the allowance, and knowing that the divine flow is going to move however it needs to, and the story unfolds exactly perfectly, all to just give us this beautiful backdrop to play against, and the story to unfold in the ways that it does. So anyway, thanks for the inspiring those topics, and I'll pass it back to either you or anybody else that wants to jump in on anything, whether it's this topic or any other direction you want to take us.
Yeah, I'll just one thing quickly. There's one line in the story which is abnegation's warning to erudite, which is knowledge leads to prosperity, and that leads to self-indulgence. And I think when I reflect on that myself, it's like, well, that's what I was doing. I've lived in a culture that's so self-indulgent, and I needed to go through a process of balance of self-denial, and that's all that's what I was doing. And that was the journey that I needed to go on. So yeah, all the better for the lesson, I guess. But yeah, thanks, Justin.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just putting it out there again, see if anybody else wants to jump in. Like I said, I do have some offline questions, but I'd love to hear from anybody here. All right, well, here is a question I was sent a good while ago, maybe about 2 months ago at this point, from Lisa. So it might not be as relevant, but it'd be good to just sort of generally speak to it. And this was about the Atlas comet thing that was all over social media, and people all over were talking about it. It's this giant object moving through quote unquote outer space, and so she just asked for my thoughts on it. And I'll just say generally, there was a post that she sent talking about how this was representative of humanity's big leap into a new era. And if I could just comment on it further. So from just briefly reading the post, it does tie into a lot of astrological shifts, which those are very substantiated and very easy to see and map and track. And the energetic influences of these celestial bodies are have been studied for a very, very long time. So while they're not comprehensive, as in we're always learning about them and their effects and the different combinations of when different wandering stars are in different positions, we do have a pretty good understanding about the movements and how they shift and what happens with them. And that's why I love how Santos Bonacci say that astrology is the true science. It's the true study of creation. It's the easiest way to map out what's happening within ourselves by looking up at the stars. So there's great reason to study them and to see what's happening and how they influence our lives, and we can note different shifts that have happened, and not just on a daily or yearly cycle, but on a much, much larger cycle. I sort of spoke to this at the beginning, but the great year of roughly 25,000 years, and many people agree who've sort of opened themselves up to the fact that we've been lied to about everything, and the history as we know it is not really accurate as far as what we've been told. But many who study Atlantis will agree that it fell roughly 12,500 years ago, which would be aligned with this great year cycle of going from night, or going into night at that point in time. So day ended, dusk, and night with the fall of Atlantis. And so then here we are, 12,500 years, half of that 25,000 year cycle of night and day coming back into day again. So from that perspective, and what things like this will discuss as far as this cyclical time period, and how there is so much pointing to this massive change that is really already here and continuing to unfold and manifest. Yeah, there's lots of things pointing to that I very much agree with. Now, where I sort of disagree with a post like this is sort of the hyper focus on this giant rock hurling through space, as if it's some far off distant thing and it might hit our planet, or whatever sort of stuff is sort of presented in that way. So it's like it's mixed in with a great message around the change for humanity and what we're moving through, but then the careful insertions of the fabrication to get us to believe that there is this outer space thing that's infinite, and we could have a comet or asteroid or whatever come impact us at any point in time. So we better stay vigilant to that and better be afraid, and it could happen at any moment. Now, crazy things could happen at any moment, but not from that way, as far as I know, as far as what I've seen. So those would just be my general thoughts on this post and the discussions around that particular comet as a giant piece of nickel the size of Manhattan, as it's been described. But it certainly does, if it is a white hat fabrication, which it very well could be, it's getting people to look up and pay attention to the stars and pay attention to what's happening around, which all of that is very helpful for us to reflect on what we're doing here, which is needing to introspect on how we got here and how we can shift out of it. So yeah, that's just what I would say on that particular topic. And I see Tilo. Hey, brother, go ahead. Yeah, we're not hearing you, Tilo. If you want to say something.
Oh, hi, Justin. Yeah, it just kicked me out of the live stream. I'm back. Now I hear you. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I have a question, or maybe you can help me, and it's about this topic with with protein in the human body. And so, yeah, maybe I can first say what I come to when I research that, or what I know. Not saying that's true, but so with the protein in the human body, my question is, where do we need that? I I know that we synthesize protein, or like hormones and all those things, but there's a whole chain of things that happened before. And how can I put that? So I think in the first step, what the body does is like trying to synthesize amino acids, and then that's coming from glucose. And when I ask, for example, AI, then AI says something like, yeah, you need nitrogen, glucose, and something else, something from a Krebs cycle or something. And the nitrogen comes by breaking down the protein. So my question is basically, do we really need that nitrogen from breaking down protein? And can we put in protein in our bodies for other reasons, to later in that chain have the protein, or is this always break down and we don't need it? I don't know. So that's my question. Maybe you can help me with that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's no one size fits all approach to it, because when you say, do we really need, I mean, there's some people out there that don't need any physical food to survive and to thrive even. There are people out there that have achieved this state to where their body is completely functional through just the breath. So So this is, to me, this is helpful in knowing what our body is capable of, but then coming back to the sort of grounded approach of, okay, where is my body as far as like doing that? Because there's many ways that our body can function, and it's one of the most adaptable, amazing pieces of technology. I mean, one could argue it is the greatest piece of technology we interact with, and we mostly take it for granted. But it is so adaptable, and it's so malleable based on what our inputs are physically, but also what our mental inputs are, what we believe. So I have no doubt that you could study and find evidence of the things that, like, you know, AI is telling you as far as how protein is synthesized, and a lot of that's very true in some senses, right? But then there's the sort of mystical moving through an evolutionary way that we can shift out of even that. It's not rigid, it's not confined. So just generally saying that to sort of set the stage. As far as the need for nitrogen, the glucose as the fuel, the nitrogen and the amino acids as the sort of composition of how proteins are synthesized within our bodies. I mean, as far as what I know, which I haven't like done a super deep dive into every layer of how that works, but that seems to be the case. However, where the distortion often comes from is how much protein we need in order to have that happen, which from what I've looked into is very small amounts, and completely satisfied within our fruits, namely fruits, but fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, you know, the frugivore diet, without needing extra emphasis on finding high protein sources of things. And high protein sources end up bogging down the system because it does have to break that all down in order to even do anything with them. So, but at the same time, it's not a one size fits all approach, because if our body's been wired to using high protein sources within our diet, and our systems are kind of used to that, then for someone that might be more helpful to them to still be incorporating these high protein sources for a time. And if they continue believing that that's necessary, then that stays true for them. It stays true in their body. Their body's that's an input, that belief, along with the continued inputs of the high protein sources and the belief that they're necessary, then that's helping to shape the body and how it moves. But if that individual let go of that belief, it might take some time to allow the sort of seemingly physical need of transitioning away from those high protein sources. It might take a minute to acclimate, but if they let that belief go, then that becomes possible. So I've found it's hard to name where anybody should be or what anybody should be eating at any point in time, because we're all coming from different stages. We have different belief systems. I do absolutely believe that the purest form of physical food is going to be the fruit, and getting to that point of having that being our only sustainable form of fuel needed physically is a process, one that we would be wise to walk that path with great care, recognizing, okay, do I need a more Ahriman grounded approach to this process of maybe pumping the brakes on trying to fast and cleanse and clear so much? Or do I need to elevate and lighten myself? Do I need to cleanse and clear and fast and go that route, which would be more luciferic medicine? but all of that is coming back to the balance of like, where am I? What is here now? What is true within me in this moment? Not what's true for somebody else, not what's true for somebody who I'm striving to be or any of these ideas, but what's true for me right now. That's the Christic essence, is here and now. So all to say is like, yeah, I think that answers your question without getting into too much detail on the like specifics on how proteins are synthesized. But from what I've seen, and I love, you know, I reference his channel all the time, but I love Vegetable Police. I love that channel so much, and I love his journey and his honest expression on how much protein he would eat at times, and now he's at the stage where he's like, I don't even like. I'll map the protein that I'm eating with what I'm doing, but it's far more than enough for me to sustain the strength that I have, and my health is only improving. So he's putting that to the test, and there are many others who don't put any emphasis on high protein meals or foods or anything in that capacity, and they're very healthy and very strong. And there are others who try that and maybe go a bit too much too fast, and they suffer because their body wasn't ready for that. So again, it's just all based on where we are and just being open to that process and allowing us to be taken and to move through it as gently and carefully as possible. Using catalysts to knock us out of cycles if we're getting locked into one way of being, you know, having that divergent path be taken so we can expand further, but also staying grounded through that whole process and not trying to bite off more than we can chew at any given point. So yeah, I'll just pass it back to you and see if you have any more thoughts on that.
Hey, yeah, thank you. Yeah, for me, it answers the question. And yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, how synthesize and all the process. I also think that most of it we get from the ether, and maybe somehow synthesize that in our bodies and can become breatharian. I'm not there. I'm just think that's what's possible for humans. And yeah, it's just sometimes I also think we can just on this journey come to a point where we eat food just for fun, and it's probably good to do it with fruit for a certain amount of time. And I guess we can eat also other foods just for fun if we let go those beliefs that we really need those things. But that's more my view. And then you have those more mainstream driven scientist views, or AIs that are also a bit more driven by mainstream. That's at least my experience. And then sometimes you get caught up in some discussion. So it was just more for clarification. And I like your answer, and for me it's good.
Yeah, thanks, Tilo. It is. I mean, we can, and we likely do, sustain ourselves to varying degrees from the ether, which is just the background energy that holds everything together. And I love how Benjamin Carter, how he broke down the 5 elements as being the various forms of sustenance that our body can sustain itself from. And not that any one is better or worse than, but they are at varying levels of density, and we have the ability to use all of them, but we are at varying degrees. And so the 5 layers, the 5 elements, earth being the solid food, water would be the next layer. So water that we drink, and then air, the breath, and then fire being the sunlight, or that, sunlight, or that sort of heated energy. And then the final one is ether, all tying it all together. And of course, there are stories of yogis who could be buried alive and had no access to air or sunlight or anything else, but could sustain. So this sort of proving this other ability to tap into other forms of sustenance, with that being the highest form. But again, it's not for us to say, oh, just because I heard this concept, I'm just going to go jump into that. I mean, maybe you're called to that, and I think I certainly love experimenting in that way, but also maintain that grounded approach of like, okay, where is my body at in this layer? You know, what can I achieve without hurting myself? You know, it's all about having that balanced approach. So great topic, great discussion. Thanks for bringing that up. And yeah, I'll just pass it over and see if anyone wants to jump in. All right. Well, this is a question from Slim. And he's asking about, could I share my thoughts about coffee? Yeah, he just goes into a little bit more, but that's generally it. Just what's up with coffee. So coffee is like anything else, it's not inherently good or inherently bad. It just is. And so the effects of coffee can be known, and we can decide, are these effects wanted or not wanted? And of course, it's not, we can't necessarily isolate certain effects from it. It's a complete package. Well, at least at this level, we can't isolate certain effects that we find desirable. But to Tilo's point, and eating for enjoyment, there are cases of, you can look into the stories about being like Rasputin, who was able to consume poison and be unaffected by it. So there are ways that we can transmute physical effects from certain things, but this is very advanced. This is very advanced practice. So generally, for most, coffee does the same thing, and it's very stimulating to the adrenals, which gives this hyper energetic boost, or seeming energetic boost. But it does come with the cost, right? It's a quick fix. And just like most, if not all things that are a quick fix, they have consequence. They have long-term consequence. So there's kind of this path of life or death, I'm not saying that coffee is necessarily going to kill you, but it's not bringing you, generally, it's not going to bring you to an elevated sense of health within your body, because it's taxing the adrenals. It creates a addictive response to where it becomes a need, because then when we don't drink it, our adrenals are like, what? I'm not receiving this normal stimulation, and our body craves it because it wants to have that same boost. And the more that we give it that same boost, the more it grows addicted and dependent on it, which is where the caffeine addictions come from, which that's just a side story. That was the hardest time I ever felt a substance addiction in my life, was in high school, drinking one of the worst things, but drinking Mountain Dew every day at school. And then when I stopped it, I did that for a couple of weeks. And then when I stopped, I had just like the worst headaches for days, it felt like. And I was like, I'm never gonna, I didn't stop that completely, but it definitely left a mark, a memory for what caffeine addiction is truly like. And it is potent. So I know many have dabbled in caffeine and felt the effects of letting it go. And so that kind of tells us our body is talking to us all the time. We choose to ignore it a lot of times, and that's another part of the strategy of keeping us always going and with no time to reflect and actually sit with ourselves and actually feel our body and feel what we're experiencing, is we ignore a lot of these things. But our body is trying to talk to us. It's trying to tell us that, okay, yes, you might be feeling this spike in energy. Maybe you need it for a quick boost of focus or whatever, but it is coming with a cost. So again, not to label it as bad or good, because there are some times where that might be worth it.
I can't hear you anymore, Justin.
Oh, can you all hear me? Okay. Sorry, I think my mic battery might have died, so I'll switch to this. So what I was saying is that I don't drink coffee. I don't engage with coffee. I mean, I'll have it like, once, a couple times a year kind of thing. Like that's about the extent that I dabble in coffee. I do use caffeine every once in a while. I've found that green tea is a much milder form of caffeine. It doesn't have as much of the sort of negative consequences, and even has some helpful benefits that sort of help to balance it out. But that's very rare too. Maybe once every other month kind of thing. Only if I'm specifically doing something like driving or just need extra help staying awake. But if I'm continuously running into that issue of like staying awake, then I find it better in my life to just come back to the questions of like, okay, why am I not getting adequate rest? And what am I consuming that's draining my energy? And who am I around that's draining my energy? And all these things, not saying that we always have the immediate solution to those, but if we stay in that process of, then we're going to keep moving towards a better reality, and not need the quick fixes to try and have a band-aid solution to whatever it is. So it does, yeah, I mean, so that's kind of my general take on coffee. I don't recommend it. It's yeah, it's one of the most, if not the most, widely accepted addictive drugs that we do as a society. But yeah, I don't recommend it. If you do coffee, I would strongly suggest not mixing cream and sugar. Those two together are another just very harmful combination of mixing the fats and the sugars together like that. Wouldn't recommend that. But generally I stay away from it. But again, like, I'm not sitting here trying to tell anybody what to do or how they should live their life. If we're called to have an experience like that or to use it for whatever, then just do so consciously. Just engage with it from a conscious perspective. I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. It's when things become unconscious patterns that the effects become more disastrous in our life. So just make everything that we do, make it conscious. I'm consciously choosing to do this, even if I know that there are some consequences that are less than desirable. I'm also choosing to do it because X, Y, and Z, because I find it pleasurable, because I need it for this instance or whatever. And if we keep engaging with it consciously, then we'll keep shifting to better and better choices as we grow. So yeah, that's what I have to say there. And yeah, I see both Tom and Tracy had their hand raised. Y'all might have been mentioning the mic thing, but I just wanted to check and see if y'all had anything else you wanted to jump in with.
G'day, everyone. Can you hear me okay, Justin?
Yeah, I'm good. Welcome. Yeah, we heard you, Tom, and then you closed your mic. You still with us?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm just driving at the moment. I'll just pull over for a second. So I just wanted to jump in a little bit there on the coffee conversation. A little bit of research that I came across, like I've never really looked into it too much, but one thing I've learned was that the reason it affects us the way it does is because the coffee plant itself is creating this chemical as an insecticide so that insects don't eat it. So, it's kind of, points to being a poison of some sort. And then what I understand is when you do consume it, it shuts down neurons in your brain, and it shuts down specifically the neurons that are trying to, that you need rest. And so it's like when those neurons shut down, then you have this false sense of energy, which isn't really there, but you're just not getting the message that you need to rest. And I thought that was quite an interesting sort of little fact that how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean it's interesting with all plants, right? Because I mean there's a very purist approach of uh some people go like they call it the natural hygiene route, where all plants, all herbs are ultimately at least minutely toxic to the body, except for our foods, which are fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Um, and even those can be, um, if not, prepared or grown correctly or harvested at the right time. So that's a very purist approach, and I know people can thrive on that, and it's a school of thought for sure. Um, I lean towards more that all plants have some value at a certain stage in our life or development, and so what appears as like a toxin in one sense, because many herbs have a similar effect of like creating a sort of toxic response which stimulates the body to do something. Um, so while if I look at it just objectively like that, it's like, okay, why would I ever consume that? But then when we see the effect of what that can do, um, many herbs have helped many people get over some hump or another. So I see the plants as being like um, very helpful at particular times, but we just have to be mindful of, is this medicine right for me in this moment? Um, so yeah, but not to negate what you're saying about coffee, I do generally think while it has the effects that we've grown accustomed to and enjoy, and I'm not saying that the sort of positive effects aren't necessarily helpful at times, but also keeping in mind the sort of negative consequences of overdoing those things, because then it becomes every once in a while kind of thing into a habit forming thing that sort of bogs us down. So going back to like Tila's point of engaging with the physical reality, whether it be food or otherwise, from a space of enjoyment, where it's not debilitating or overtaking the experience, but just simply for enjoyment, versus the consistent unconscious patterning that takes us, into that reality. So yeah, no, I appreciate the added details around coffee, and yeah, again, my recommendation would be to not do it generally, though this can, yeah, everyone's free to do as they like, so don't take my word as anything other than just that's my experience through it. I tend to avoid it, and I found others who do avoid it as well tend to report great results from letting that one go. And if you want suggestions on ways to reduce it, there are many alternatives out there that can be helpful to sort of wean off of it, including dandelion root tea has a similar sort of earthy flavor to it that's very similar and has a mild stimulant effect that's not as harmful. So that can be great. There's other sort of mushroom teas out there that help with that as well, or just simply just starting to alternate days that you do it. That's a suggestion that Lila brought up to someone not too long ago, and I thought that was a great one to mention. Of just say, okay, every other day I'm not going to do coffee, and do that consistently, and then the physical addiction becomes less and less. And those first few days where you don't do it might be hard, but or just reduce the amount, or however the case may be. But great discussion there. So I'll pass it back. We are going to need to start closing down here, but I'll pass it over and see if anybody has any closing comments or things they want to share before we start wrapping up.
Hey, Justin. Hey, everybody. Yeah, I did actually want to add just a little bit. I'll make it quick. So I'll share my experience with the coffee, no coffee. So yeah, I was a big drinker of it. Not my whole life though. I didn't actually even start drinking coffee until my 30s. So like at all, didn't touch it. And then just more it wasn't large amounts, anyways. Currently, as I stand now, I haven't been drinking for 2 years. I did want to, I did with intention, want to stop drinking coffee as we were learning all the different things, as we were on the other channel together. I joined your channel and I was learning all these different new health modalities and everything. So I had just recently, the timing of it was 2 years ago. So in the fall, like around September-ish, it was like I started to get into the go-go juice concept as well, or in drinking, right? And I started to do that very slowly. And then I was intentionally wanting to, like I said, stop drinking coffee. So we're having conversations about, like you said, the different options of healthier alternatives with the mushroom tea and all this different kind of stuff. And then I was like, it became kind of more confusing because there were so many options. There's so many options to get off of it. I was like, I wasn't sure about going cold turkey either, because similar to what you experienced was, when I would not have caffeine, killer migraines, and like feeling like I was going to die, and extremely painful. So I was a little bit concerned that might happen. So as I was having these intentions and what I was wanting to do, I didn't really even have like, I've got to do it by such and such time. I must do this now. It wasn't like urgent. It was an intentional, okay, this is a phase that I'm going through now. And it was like quite the ritual, like everybody. It's such a ritual. And I was wanting to get away from that as well. I was bogged down by the ritual of it because I was terrible at making it. Absolutely crappable at making it. So I'd have to go out and procure espresso and purchase espresso, and pretty pricey, shots, like not store bought or pre-made, but from really good cafes, and to get really good high quality. So that's pretty pricey. So I always have to go procure it, and that was an ordeal, making sure I had it in the morning, all that. Anyway, so I eventually, it was something that happened. I started to feel awful on it. I started to have adverse effects within a week. I couldn't even touch it. I felt like I was coming down off of like, it was horrific. It was a horrible. I felt like I was on drugs. I felt like I was on like some methamphetamine, something. It was really the grossest feeling from something that I'd never felt like that before. Like I never actually got overamped and any uncomfortable feeling ever on coffee. Anyways, so I didn't really ever overdo it per se. I would drink some, but I wouldn't drink it all day long. That kind of a thing. I wasn't like a 4-cup a person day. It was never something like that, crazy like that. But or even 2. But anyways, so started to get these adverse effects, and that was it. I was like, that's it. I can't even touch it. Can't even think of touching it. Felt so awful. So that was it. And then I went on to the go-go juice and went hard on that, and have been for 2 years, and here I am now. So, but I do have a little, when I do smell it sometimes, some of the cafes, the little streets that are here where I live, there's little cafe culture going on. So it smells, I still love the aroma of it. And yeah, and the ritual of it, and whatnot, sitting out in these little cafes, enjoying it and whatnot. So anyway, but yeah, I'm grateful that I'd gone through the process like that. But kind of going back to the manifestation conversation. So did I actually manifest that with intention? I believe so. But it was like, I believe it was also like you say, very God driven. Like it was something that I was actually also not really praying. I wasn't praying or asking God for help with it. I was really fine with like following, okay, this is what I'm going to feel out here. I'm going to feel this out with intention. Okay, I'm going to try this with intention. And that's like we were speaking about all that kind of stuff too in our conversations here in this same space at that period of time. So, and I was learning that doing things with intention and the difference that it felt and the difference that it made. So to sort of add to that sort of a little bit of conversation went on earlier with that fellow, guess who, that guy? Yeah. So curious. That was a rather interesting conversation as well. But anyway, so that's that. And yeah, so whether I believe I manifested it, but also God given, and the timing was absolutely perfect. Like because it wasn't even something hard. I didn't have to even go to an alternative and everything. But yeah, so I wanted to share that. So yeah, great show today, and thank you for listening. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. It's it is interesting when we're ready. Sometimes they just vibrate right out of our life, and physically that can very much happen. So that's great to hear, and I remember you sharing that before in Healing is a Feeling. And it's nice when that happens and it works out in that way, because it's just like a very clear, you can't argue with that sign. It's like, nope, that repulses me. I obviously don't need that anymore. So thanks for sharing. And Tom, I saw your mic open real quickly. Did you have more you wanted to share?
Yeah, Justin, I couldn't chime in earlier when you and Reno were having that discussion on the Gospel of Judas, I think Reno was saying. But I just wanted to remind everyone that, the key to understanding a lot of these things is in the zodiac wheel. And, that's why the Masons, their key is the arch, the royal arch, which is the 6 daytime signs, That's where, all our knowledge really comes from. And so just to, for people to realize and understand that the demiurge is not something to be feared. The demiurge is the 5 wandering stars and the 2 luminaries, the sun and the moon. So that's what the demiurge is, because it's their frequencies that create the physical earth, So yeah, just wanted to add that. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. That's such a great reminder. And yeah, that's why people often say Satan is the god of this world, the physical world, because it has to be through those lenses, those layers, those 7 colors, the refracting of that one pure white light refracting into creating the 7. And it's through that seemingly chaos at times, because these energies are all moving about in different ways and different configurations, and it's very chaotic. But it's through that chaos that we're able to even have this experience. So I can I like to say it in a sort of funny way. We knocked ourselves in the back of the head, knocked ourselves out just to forget that we were God. That's the only way that we could do this, and so that's the club that we hit ourselves with, is this is the demiurge. It's the lens to look through to pretend that I'm separate, which is beautiful, because look at what happened because of it. Look at what was created out of that. A magnificent experience. So yeah, thank you for grounding us back into that perspective. And yeah, there's nothing, the demiurge is just another part of us. It's another part of this experience, and it is sort of commanding of the physical nature, but we are not just that. We are part of that. We are not just that. So thanks, Tom, and thanks everyone. I think Oh, go ahead, Reno.
Yeah, just wanted to chime in to finish because it's such a lovely conversation. Yeah, I take it with a pinch of salt, but I saw interesting podcast with Dr. Armans. He does these brain scans and all this sort of stuff to do with substances. And it was everything. It was alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, and all of it showed up in brain scans in terms of like video games, anything like that. It all showed up in it, and his advice was literally like, um, I think it was the only physical thing he recommended, I think, was omega-3s. It could be from algae or not, but literally 6 months it would take of someone training them out of any repetitive addictive behaviors in that way, and then he saw improvements, but it could be up to a year to see the brain fully heal. And so anyway, take it as a pinch of salt. I just thought it was interesting because I also, there was another guy talking about nicotine being the way to undo a lot of the spike proteins, or that nicotine is a vitamin and it comes from that tobacco is part of the nightshade family, that tomatoes and potatoes have nicotine in it. It's essentially a vitamin. It's not addictive. That other chemicals in the cigarettes are addictive. I think we start with pyrazines that they add into that are not part of tobacco but added into the cigarette that makes them addictive. But the nicotine itself isn't inherently addictive. So I tried some patches, I tried some gum, which I'd never done before. And I did notice some similar detox symptoms that came out that were quite interesting. And some benefits to it too, some improved concentration. But I noticed if I took more than like 3 or 4 grams, then that was too much, and better to just have like 2. But yeah, anyway, then I mean the abstinence of all substances is I think is much better. That they're all leading to slight degenerations of our brains. Essentially, that was the conclusion of the guy who, even small amounts. So yeah, that was just a bit shocking, to hear a doctor say that who's done hundreds of thousands of scans on people. Because everything's being, as we're rising the tree of knowledge, everything's being revealed like this, and yeah. But yeah, on the bread thing, I noticed not within 3 weeks of bread being milled or crushed into flour, that makes a big difference in terms of the parasitic load that's created from the bread. So a lot of people who've been gluten-free all this time, if they were to have sort of organic grains that have been freshly ground within 3 weeks, they're much less likely to have digestive issues. Which and it's the same with whether it's raw milk versus raw milk being good for colds and flus, because you get an immunity update and things like this. So yeah, I've had to sort of adjust how I was sort of demonizing certain foods sometimes, and perhaps the roles that they can play if they're being as close to earth, as close to nature as possible. Yeah. And lastly, I just heard 107 announce just a couple of days ago that we're getting closer to some kind of, digital ledger of digital receipts for gold held in, in a U.S. Treasury certificate system. So the smooth transition would be a parallel system where you could have digital receipts. For gold and silver coin, like the Constitution, and that slowly it would be a parallel system where people could choose to use the Federal Reserve notes or these gold receipts on a digital ledger, and that would be our money going forward. And so it's not digital money; it's digital receipts for a physical asset held, in trust by the US government. So I just thought that was, a sign that and an indication of how things could change in a good for a good way. There's a lot of hope there. All right. just signing off. Thanks for that great conversation, Justin, and everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Reno. Just on those topics specifically, yes, I mean what you said around everything that we input could potentially, even in small amounts, have a harmful effect on us. It's like, yeah, that's why the medicine can't be worse than the disease, right? But sometimes in our fallen state, there are needs to engage with certain forms of medicine, which is as you were describing as well. So yeah, like you talked about, there's no end all be all for anything. It's truly just a weaving and continued balance back to center, where we don't need anything in the external, and we never did, but we are choosing an expression where we engage with that. Yeah, and then on the receipts for currency, I mean that's what it was intended, or that's what it was alluded to being initially when we first got onto paper currency. It was supposed to just be a receipt of something actually physical, but of course we diverted away from that through the fiat currency. So it's good to hear the movement back to that discussion, which of course we're all seeing slowly but surely. And I saw Leah raise your hand. Did you want to jump in real quickly before we close out?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I realise you want to wind up and close it off. I did want to say a few things, but I'll only leave it at one thing. Fabulous, fantastic conversation and topics. Thank you for that. And I just want to say I've been sort of off away wandering in the wilderness that is the Matrix a little bit, just sort of seeing what's out there and dipping my toe in. And my gosh, it's chaos. It's just really anyway. But I just want to say I come back into this space and I just feel a sense of divinity. Like it's just beautiful. So just thank you to one and all that brings the beautiful energy. Everyone I find here, majority of souls here are just enlightened, and they're just, the energy that they give off is just so beautiful. So I just wanted to thank you and end it on that note. But if I could join next strong, I'll probably hopefully remember the topics that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I'll end it there. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks, Leah. I really appreciate that. And I'm so grateful for all the beautiful souls that pour their energy into this space. And it's palpable. You can feel it. It's like whether you speak up or you're just here, it's this like swirling pool of energy that we're all pouring our cups into, and then filling our cups with it, and then taking it out into the world. I love it. So thanks for saying that. And yeah, looking forward to next week, hopefully, where we can hear from you on the topics that I'm quite curious about. Feel free to send me a message if you want that to jog your memory. And yeah. But thanks everybody for being here today. I do want to give a quick moment and go over the song lyrics that we're going to play us out with. So let's do that. So the first one by Cat Stevens is called Father and Son. Might recognize it. And this is a conversation between, I mean, in the song it illustrates between a father and a son. But if we expand out, this is really between the nature of us that is wanting to explore and step out and seemingly create chaos and all of that. This would be that divergent path of Eve taking the bite of the apple, stepping off into the unknown. So that's the son versus the father, who's this, safe, harmonious nature of loving wisdom. which both are valuable, both are necessary, and they're both within us. So it's just a conversation between you and you. But let's read it. So from the Father, it's not time to make a change. Just relax. Take it easy. You're still young. That's your fault. There's so much you have to know. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me. I'm old, but I'm happy. I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy to be calm when you found something going on. But take your time, think a lot. Why think of everything you've got, where you will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. So just a loving, wise reminder to slow down and not always be churning for more and new, which can be very helpful medicine at times. And that medicine can also be very stifling and limiting. So then comes in the next form from the Son. How can I try to explain? Because when I do, he turns away again. It's always been the same old story. From the moment I could talk, I was ordered to listen. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go. So the prodigal son, choosing to step off into the journey of the unknown, a necessary part of the story to expand in awareness. We have to take that leap of faith into the unknown, into the uncharted territory. We can't just stay in the safety of what we've already experienced. So from the Father, it's not time to make a change. Just sit down, take it slowly. You're still young. That's your fault. There's so much you have to go through. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me. I'm old, but I'm happy. And the Son, all the times that I cried, keeping all the things I knew inside. It's hard, but it's harder to ignore it. If they were right, I'd agree, but it's them they know, not me. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go. So the sort of continuous wrestling between these two energies within us, the masculine of the safe containment structure, and the feminine, the wild nature, the creative essence. They both exist within us. And where's the way through it? Balance. Sometimes we need that masculine structure, safety, grounding. Sometimes we need that feminine, energizing, moving. And it's up to us to determine what is right in each and every moment, to be open to the medicine that is presented to us. So anyway, that's a great song. And then the last song that I'll play us out with is called Wild World. So this is another discussion between God and us, or as I mentioned in the show, the sort of monastic unity and sort of speaking to that wild nature within us, desiring to leap into the unknown and to go from the unified essence to the duality. So now that I've lost everything to you, you say you want to start something new, and it's breaking my heart. You're leaving, baby. I'm grieving. So breaking my heart is in we're opting to step off into the unknown. We're leaving the sanctity and the safety of what we have created. But it's necessary to have that, embrace that courageously as the creative process. So, but if you want to leave, take good care. I hope you have a lot of nice things to wear, but then a lot of nice things turn bad out there. So it's a warning. It's a warning that, yes, I know that you will leave. I know that side of us is going to push, but heed what I'm saying. Oh, baby, it's a wild world. It's hard to get by just upon a smile. It's a wild world. I'll always remember you like a child, girl. I've seen a lot of what the world can do, and it's breaking my heart in two, because I never want to see you sad, girl. Don't be a bad girl. But if you want to leave, take good care. Hope you make a lot of nice friends out there. But just remember, there's a lot of bad, and beware. And then it repeats. Baby, I love you. But if you want, yeah, it repeats again. I think it just repeats from there. So you get the gist of it. It's a conversation with ourselves again, and this nature of stepping off into the unknown, which is a necessary part of us. We could even view this as like a devilish side of us, but we don't have to label it as like a bad thing. It's just part of us to continue exploring, and it prevents stagnation. It is that catalyst to keep us growing. So anyway, I'm going to play these songs. And again, thank you all for being here today. This was a fantastic conversation. Really appreciate all the inputs, all the topics, all the discussions. Thanks for being here. We'll keep on doing these. Hopefully next Thursday. I plan on it doing next Thursday. And likely won't be doing a watch party tomorrow night. I'm going to be doing some traveling. So yeah, we'll just do this show for this week. And I did want to mention, so if you are listening to these shows, if it's no different to you, I'd love it if you could listen on YouTube on my recently returned channel, Wandering Toward Truth, which I'm considering doing a name change here soon enough. So stay tuned for that. But it just helps with the statistics on that channel of actually getting monetized, which I'm hopeful I'm well on my way to do so, which would be really nice to have extra income to help go towards people who have needs and all of these different things. So if it's no different to you, if you're going to listen to it and it's not any extra trouble, I would request to listen to these recordings on YouTube. That would be helpful. Yeah, but it's not a big deal. Telegram's just fine as well. I'll always post in both locations, but just wanted to put that out there if it's no different to you. So anyway, again, thanks for being here. Love you all so very much. Enjoy these songs, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.